Right. So it's 21st of January, Fraser.
Yes, it is.
And I will get to you in a second, Lucy. And I'm a little bit confused because it's near the end of January, and yet behind Lucy's head, I can see Christmas decorations.
Oh, I'm sure there's a.
How, I mean, do you love Christmas? Have you put them up early, Lucy? That I think that is probably, that'd be the coolest answer ever, wouldn't it? I love Christmas so much, I'll put them up like 11 months early.
Well, no, I do. To answer your question, I do love Christmas, but that's not why they're still up. So we do a thing. We have a tradition for like 20 years now, where we do Christmas dinner for our friends from school. The first time we ever did Christmas for our families, myself and my husband, we were really nervous because we'd never done it before. So we asked our friends to come and be like guinea pigs so that we could practice and see if we killed anybody or poisoned anyone. So they all came and we did Christmas dinner, and then we loved it so much and had such a great time. We've done it every single year since, but it's not always, everyone knows December is such a busy time. So it's not always easy to find a date. So sometimes we've done it in November, and this year we're not doing it until the 25th of January, but we always have the house super Christmassy. So rather than take them down, put them back up or anything, we've literally just left all our Christmas decorations up until everyone comes on Saturday. So Fraser's actually coming on Sunday, so he'll be here when we take them all down. But yeah, I mean, I do love Christmas, so I don't mind, but I kind of forget that they're there and that no one else is. I can't imagine being in a house at the moment with no Christmas decorations. It makes me feel kind of sad for everybody.
My house. Woohoo. Mine are gone by like the end of Boxing Day. I'm like, be done with
Yeah,
it.
my
Certainly
mum's
by New
always
Year's Day.
yeah, my mum's always ready to get rid of the mess of Christmas decorations. So but yeah, so I love it. Bit of twinkle again, why not? What's not to like?
So if I don't speak to Fraser in like February, it's because you and your husband have poisoned him. Is that pretty much?
Actually, well, yeah, he'll be coming the day. He's coming the day after the actual Christmas, so he'll be there for like the aftermath of it. I'd say he's going to be like arriving, and somehow I don't know if everyone's like this, but when we have parties, people seem to manage to drink out of like four different glasses over the course of the day. So it's like we've got 21 people coming, and there'll be like 40 glasses that have been used. And the kids love it here. We let them run riot. They throw pillows at each other and build forts and like do they've got the little figures and they do big battles and stuff. So the whole house gets trashed and we love it. So it's great.
Nice. I suppose, Fraser, I should actually introduce Lucy because it's like people who listen to this show and who watch this on YouTube, they know who you are, Fraser. They've heard Lucy's name mentioned, but they
Well,
have not seen Lucy's Christmas decorations or face or shoulders.
boys.
So would you like to I want to know how you met Lucy Linger, director. How
Right.
did that? Tell me that story because I don't think I know that story.
So Disney in the UK were doing a competition, and it was called Disney Imagine, and they were looking for 12 short films in the UK. And but they're like, oh, you have to be working with somebody from like who's like an underrepresented. And I was like, well, a woman director is that's quite underrepresented. So
Very.
I went to my friend Debbie Moon, who works on Cops and Monsters, etc., etc. The Wolf Blood for the CBBC people, and she got in touch with Lucy B. Hay, who I also know, who's another writer and gives great advice to people. And she went to our Lucy, and Lucy came back to me and said, "Oh, I've heard about your project. I'd love to read your script." And I just laughed and I went, "I don't have a script. I have an idea." And thus the relationship was bonded.
And that's true. You didn't have a script at that time.
So, and I think I had a very loose pitch.
Now you had a pitch for sure. I wouldn't be here if he didn't have a pitch. So he had not just a pitch, but a very intriguing and interesting pitch. And so I was like definitely interested, but yeah, gonna need a script of some kind.
That's like 6 nights that week. My wife took our 6-month-old boy to bed, and I sat up and I wrote until it was done.
What was the most interesting thing about the pitch, Lucy, that Fraser gave?
Well, I'm always interested in like always been interested in folk tales and folk. I mean, I'm interested in stories. That's why I do the job that I do. And stories that endure over hundreds of years are always the best, stickiest, most interesting stories. And so the fact that the story was based on a real Scottish folk legend really drew me in. A really interesting and intriguing young female protagonist. and it sounded like she was going to go on quite a journey, which of course she does. And that's still really to this day is my favorite thing about the script and the story in general is the arc that the central character goes on. It's a 15-minute short film, and it just arcs like absolutely insane. You know, where she is at the beginning, where she is at the end, and the journey we see that gets her there. I think it's like a little bit of a magic trick, really, which is fitting given all the magic in the story. But the real magic trick is this character arc that Fraser's managed to write in such a short space of time. And that was right there in the pitch early doors. So
And I think that we've watched a lot of short films, and I think short films struggled with that final act, with that third act, where you've got a really great setup and a really good middle, and then it just falls on its face. And I experienced that recently, and I was really sad for it because I was like, "Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it." Oh, okay. And I think people struggle to like fit it all in like 15 or 20 minutes.
And sometimes at short films, people have like a situation rather than a plot. So it's like they've got the idea of a situation that might be interesting, but then they haven't, as Fraser said, they haven't figured out what the story looks like, what the plot within that situation actually looks like. And so you get given context and information, but it doesn't actually, it's that narrative drive that is sometimes missing from short film, that actually when you watch a really good short film, it's always that narrative drive is there as much as it would be if you were going to be giving up 90 minutes of your time to something, you know.
Do you think that the filmmakers or the writers struggle with that because they feel limited by it's a short film, I can't expand it to an hour or 80 minutes, or in the case of The Brutalist, like 3.5 hours with an intermission in it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't. I think it's kind of down to skill a little bit as well, and just practice and just doing it over and over. Like I figured it out yesterday, like not yesterday, I figured it out at the end of the year. I've made like 50 projects or something in 20 years, and a lot of them were shorts. But I think definitely Faithful like has the most succinct arc. Like so we saying, I think some of them were a situation and there wasn't much of a story in it. And I think it just comes with age and wisdom and practice.
And I think respecting short form as an art form in itself, I think across the industry, but even for the people who are creating it, there's a sense of, oh, I haven't got the money and the time and the resources to do a feature. I'll just do a short film. And it's sort of like somebody saying, oh, I haven't got time to write a novel. I'll just write a poem instead, and then expecting that they're going to write this incredible poem that everyone's going to love. But no, poetry is an art form. It's completely separate to a novel. And I think that's a good way to approach short filmmaking, is to think of it as an art form, and also really like even more than like just a poem. It's like a haiku poem. It's like a really specific type of poetry. You need to know how it works, and you need to have one thing that you want to say, and you want to know how you're going to plot that out. I mean, I'm writing one at the moment. It's a 60-second short is the brief. And you've got to do set up, pay off, you've got to intrigue the audience, you've got to tell the story in 60 seconds. Stuff like that is really great, like for like weight training at the gym, for creating those kinds of story arcs. What is the goal? What are the stakes? You know, all of those things, making sure that that's all in there. So I think like anything really, if you're going to do it with like, oh, I'd much rather be doing something else, but I guess I'll just have to do this, it's never going to be amazing. Whereas if you're like with Faithful, the short was the goal, that was the plan, and we treated it like, this is the movie that we're making, this is the length of time we want it to be, and this is what we want to do with it. And I really think that comes through in the film.
60-second short. Wow. I can't imagine anything more scarier to do. I think I would be more scared if somebody says to me, right, create a 60-second short rather than a 60-minute one. I think that sounds pretty terrifying, to be honest.
I look forward to sharing the end result with you then.
I look forward to seeing it. Yep. So I'm going to focus on the writing for a second. So Fraser, why is Faithful, and you're not allowed to say funding, I'm going to try and not have most of this taken up by trying to find money to make films, because that's a topic that you and I always talk about, and it's the wall we keep banging our head against. But Faithful, the short film, why not Faithful, the feature film, initially when you were creating that story?
I think it's because it was the Disney Imagine pitch, and Disney said they wanted I think it was 15 minutes. I think it had to be, or maybe 20, somewhere between 15 and 20. And I think that's why it was like Disney were offering you 20 grand. And I was like, I'll take 20 grand from Disney. We're not talking about funding. But like, not have to crowdfund and do all that lovely stuff that we've spent the last 2-3 years doing on Faithful. It would have been lovely to just have that money in the bank. But I think that's what it was. It was just to say that this has to be a 15-minute short film. But as Lucy and I were writing it and getting into pre-production, we were like, I can't remember the exact conversation, but I think we said we might have to consider that someone's going to want a feature from this, or someone might want a TV series from this. So we might want to put that in the back of our heads. So it was always there. But I get the fear when you do a short film and someone goes, well, now we want a feature, because so many shorts under the features don't work. And I've seen it happen time and time again. So that was always a fear for me, and I kind of just left it alone. I put it in the back of my mind and went, I'm not going to want. No one's going to want a feature. It's fine. And then
I'd want a feature. I mean, I haven't seen Faithful yet, but I've been privy to look at the behind the scenes stuff, watching you guys out in the middle of forests getting rained on and stuff from the comfort of my nice radiator filled room. And I'd want a feature. I think I've seen your work over the years, Fraser, Cops and Monsters and all that sort of stuff. Faithful is leaps and bounds on from that, and that's no disrespect to Cops and Monsters, but it is in a very different league, in a good way.
That comes from collaboration. That comes from open. And I've said this to you before. That comes from opening up your world and letting other people come and play in it. Like working with Lucy, like I brought a lot, like some people back from Cops and Monsters and the Origins sizzle reel to work on it. But we worked with a lot of new people. Like we had students in from Edinburgh Napier. We had Heather. We'd never worked with Heather before. We'd never worked with Michelle, the photographer, before. We'd never worked with Sophie in costume. You know, there was a lot of new people, a lot of new casts. Like I hadn't worked with any of that cast before either, and some of them were quite big names. So it is about, like, you have to let go of your ego really quickly and just check it at the door and say, right, how can I do better? Right, Lucy, Val, Lindsay, Kimberly, Lily, like, this is how you make it better. And I think that's maybe why this is the best thing that we've done yet.
How easy was it for you working with another director? Because you've directed, probably more of your written stuff than you've handed over to somebody else. How easy was it for you? You mentioned the ego, to sort of hand it over and go, okay, I've done my bit. I'm there if Lucy needs me. We're collaborating on this thing, but at the end of the day, Lucy is wearing the director's hat.
Give your husband analogy.
Not me. Oh, well, I always say, people often say, because I write as well, and people often say to me, oh, you need to have someone else direct your work just so you know how it feels. And I always hear that in my head, like someone saying, you need to let someone else sleep with your husband just so you know how that feels. And I'm like, do you know what? How that would feel. That's my job, and I prefer to do it myself. So it is it's a hard thing to do for sure.
And also, it's like you've written yourself, you write yourself. How easy is it to, especially with someone you've never worked before, yes, you, Fraser, to sort of go, right, okay, I've got a slightly different idea for this scene or this line of dialogue. Is it a natural instinct for you to go, actually, I've got some thoughts, let's change this and here's why type thing?
Absolutely, 100% my natural instinct. Like chain and gag me if you want me to resist that instinct. I've been working as a director for like over 20 years in theatre, and the vast majority of stuff that I work on is other people's work, be it someone like Ben Jonson, who's been dead for 450 years, or a brand new piece of writing with the writer in the room. I've done and everything sort of in between. And it is definitely a different set of skills when you're working with a writer who's there versus somebody who you're taking the text and you're doing what you want with it to some extent, although there's always constraints. And largely I'm constrained by the fact that my main goal is to bring the writer's vision to life with my own kind of spin on it. But yeah, that's absolutely within my directing other people's work. I've never thought of the husband analogy with regard to anybody else. I'm perfectly happy taking other people's work and running with it. And like Fraser says, I think there definitely is something magical about two different visions of something coming together. And if that goes wrong, you get the old, everyone's trying to draw a horse and you end up with a camel. But if it goes right, you end up with everyone brings their best of what they have, and it ends up being even better because everybody's bringing different skill sets and different experiences, and that goes right the way through all of the cast and crew. And I've had fantastic ideas come from hair and makeup, and from assistants and students that are working. We had some great ideas come in from the Edinburgh Napier students on set. And again, that depends what sort of director you are as well. I'm really collaborative. I'm very open to hearing other people's ideas. Once we're on set and there's a time crunch, you have to rein that in to some extent. It can't, it can't be directed by committee. It has to be my say. But ultimately, it's all better when you hear other ideas. Let your ego go, the same as Fraser's saying, and take somebody else's idea and make sure that they're getting that credit. Everybody knows that's whose idea we're rolling with. And it's all of our film. It takes a village to make a film. It really does. And I always find that interesting when you see a director's credit that's like a film by and then the director. Like, I've always found that a little bit strange, especially you see it sometimes when the director has not written the film. And I just think, I'm not sure I fully understand that credit, because it's a film by masses and masses of people who put their blood, sweat and tears into it, and are all guided by by you. It's not like it's, if you think about a rowing, it's not like a boat rowed by a cox, is it? It's a boat rowed by a team of rowers guided by a cox to do their best work. And that's kind of how I always view it.
I think Fraser and I have probably touched upon this subject a lot, but when like Celebrity X has been cancelled for whatever reason, and people are, I'm not going to watch this film, and you're like, it wasn't just them that made it. There's hundreds or sometimes thousands of people that made this film. Go watch it for them. Just don't talk about Celebrity X if you don't like it, type thing. So it does take a village. Looking at the behind the scenes stuff, you had quite a sizable crew as well. Can you remember how many roughly you had?
5-ish.
In total, I think across the 2 days and stuff, I think 4 days. Yeah, the two lots of 2 days. It was the biggest crew I've ever worked with. Like, I'm shooting I've just finished shooting a micro feature that was me, a cameraman, and the 2 actors, and that was it. That that size of crew and that amount of support and skill is something that I've not had access to and experience of before. It was absolutely fantastic.
I was going to ask how you found it, because obviously I wouldn't expect it to go, it's terrible, Fraser, make them 3 next time. But obviously it's an adjustment, isn't it?
Yeah, it was weird and it was interesting because I've always found directors with an ego weird, because to me it's such a collaborative art form. And but one of the things I felt was I started to get a little glimpse into how, if you were that way inclined, it could end up fueling an ego, because you're literally spending the whole day with people coming and asking you what you want, how you want it, is this right, is this exactly how you see it? And because of the speed as well and the amount of things going on, there isn't a huge amount of time for niceties. So you end up being like, no, that's out there. No, move that here. This needs to go here. That should be like this. Can we change that? Can we go and do that? Like, you end up being, and at one point I'm like, have I stopped saying please and thank you to everybody? I need to you rein it in. But you do, you feel it's an amazing feeling when everybody trusts you and everybody just is looking to you. We want to feed the vision because I'm the one holding the whole thing together in my head. And so anything that's slightly, there's no time to argue, I like it like this, because they don't know how that piece fits in the puzzle. And so that is a very humbling experience, to have people trusting they're going to go and do their bit of the puzzle exactly how we want it, because they trust that we know what the puzzle looks like and how it all fits together. And I can understand, if you, for the first time really, if you were not the right sort of personality for it, how that could turn you into a bit of an egomaniac. So I'm very glad that that is not where my natural personality would be. So that's good. But yeah, it was great. They're a brilliant crew. I mean, honestly, really such talent.
You and I had two different personalities when we were filming, and you were the slightly stressed one, and I was always going, it's fine, don't worry about it.
I'm going to get Fraser a t-shirt for on set that says I'm not worried about it, because like that's literally his, and I'm like, but I'm slightly worried about it. It's like, well, I'm not worried about it, we've got it. Like,
I think though with Fraser, and I might be sort of pulling the curtain back on the Wizard of Oz there, but Fraser does sweat bullets sometimes. I'm guessing Fraser, you sort of panic and worry before the day, and then on the day you're like, I can't change much on the day now, so it'll be fine. Is that correct? Or
Making sure the money's there, it's making sure your crew are there, your cast are there, like everyone knows where they're going to be when, and everyone's going to get picked up. And we had Kimberly flying in, we had Greg flying in. He had to get taken to his hotel. Kimberly had to get taken to her hotel. Kimberly got sick, so that was happening. And then there was dogs and children, and like Lily.
nature. There was nature, there was rain, the weather there
so
looked
much.
horrendous.
And things had to change on the fly, didn't they? I mean, that's where the trust, I think, between Fraser and I, it's one of those things. It's like doing a trapeze act, and you believe there's a safety net there, and then sometimes you miss what you're going for, and you have to learn, is there truly a safety net here, or am I just going to smack the floor? And I think that trust relationship that we built up over the year, especially shooting the teaser, that was obviously the first time that we worked together. I flew up to Glasgow with no idea whether this guy was like all talk and no, and no one was going to be there for for the shoot, and everything was there, everything we needed. The DP is absolutely fantastic. The locations are all amazing. Everything's just fabulous. So that trust that we there, it was like a year later after the teaser that we actually did the shoot. And sometimes I'm on location with a walkie-talkie, and Fraser is back at the house, and I'm with the script supervisor, and the script supervisor, I'm looking at the locations and what we have available, what we can do with the weather, and what we can do in terms of safety for the actor, and all of these kinds of things. And I'm having to make big significant changes to the script, and I'm just having to say, to the on the walkie-talkie to Fraser, like, I'm trying to explain what I'm trying to do, and he's just like, I trust you, you've got it, you're there, I can't see it, you're on set, go for it. And we did make some of those changes, particularly to the opening and to stuff around the CG. We had to do on the fly a little bit more, but again, because I've worked so closely with Fraser, and I knew what his vision was for the story and what he was hoping to get from it. I think that it really helps, and it does become a work marriage as well, where like if you're out and you've got to buy something for your house and you can't get hold of your spouse, you know them well enough, hopefully there's to sort of make those kind of choices. And I feel like that I felt quite comfortable, much more comfortable than the script supervisor. Sometimes it's like, this is nothing like this, and I'm like, it's fine, Fraser said it's fine, I'm happy with it, it's fine.
I know he was phoning me, like we did 2 days, we had to stop because we ran out of money. So we had to get the money again and go back. And James phoned me. I remember being out at TK Maxx with Siobhan and Harrison, and James is like, she's made quite a significant change. So yeah, are you all right with this? I went, yeah, I trust her. Like, if that's what's going to work, then that's what we're going to do. And he goes, right. He goes, it's just my job to make sure. I went, no, totally, I get that. But James and I worked together for like 5-6 years on Cops and Monsters. I was like, it's fine, as long the two of you are fine. It's all good. And it's just trust. It's going to be fine.
Which was a scarier word to hear in that conversation, Fraser? Was it significant or change?
Significant.
Like, what do you mean? Well, it's all a dream or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the film, so I ain't spoiling anything. So I'm good. I can say what I want.
Vicious. parts of the film, and I can say this, where first of all, the two fairy dogs were going to have a massive fight. But then once we'd worked with the dog trainer and the two dogs, we realised quite quickly that the two dogs weren't going to be able to do a fight to what we wanted. We were toying with the idea of doing puppets and models, but then that person let us down. So that went out the window. And then we decided, like, we'll just do it in animation.
We're going to do shadows for a while, weren't we? I think even right up till the like very close to the end, shadows on her face was like a real like fix that we'd had, wasn't it?
Scrapped that because it wasn't going to work practically. And then we decided that Lily was going to get dragged towards, her final destination by the red dog. And then practically our stunt director was like, well, we'll have to have a day before and we need to do this, we need to do that. We just don't have the time for that, we don't have the money for that. And then Lucy came up with a better solution that works so much better than what was there originally. And it's just figuring out what that is. And you just have to go out. And when we watch it from start to finish, it just flows and it's fast. Like, it is just so.
It is really fast, and again, that can sometimes be something you notice in short films, considering it's a short film. People feel like they want to get to 15, 18 minutes, and so there's things that are really drawn out, and you feel like you could have done this in 5 minutes. Like, you should be doing it as quickly as you can. Like, really, for a short, you don't want to be dragging stuff out. But the one thing I did want to say, just to like burst the little bubble, I'm afraid for some of the writers maybe that are watching or listening, is that it's really important to make the point that Fraser is a writer producer, and so I'm directing, producing, he's writing and producing. So the conversations we're having about any kind of script changes, and that, although for me, I would always be respectful of the writer and I would hope to be having as many of those conversations ahead of shoot as possible. If we had a writer on set who's not producing, they're not going to get the same level of dialogue, partly because that dialogue will be happening with the producers, and you can't have it with multiple people. If the writer's there with the producer, or if the writer is a producer, then they'll have more say on that. But yeah, I mean, sometimes writers are not on set, sometimes writers are invited to set, sometimes writers are there, and if there's changes that need to be made, it's always useful to have them there because they know the characters and the story as well as, if not better than, everyone else. But yeah, it's different when you're writing, producing, and that's why becoming a filmmaker yourself, if you want to have some kind of creative control, the best way to do that is to get involved in filmmaking and get on to producing your own work, rather than, if you submit a script to somebody and they buy it, you might not ever even see it until it's on screen, or and you're not going to know what they're going to do with it, and it might look very different than what you had in your head.
So we need to talk about the cast, because the cast are obviously, though they're a huge part of the film because they're on screen. Let's talk about casting. How did you cast the project? How happy, what memories have you got of the main cast? When you're sitting down in 5 years, you'll look back and go, that was an amazing time. Do you want to pick out a couple of moments, each of you, for some of the cast?
We did Lily for the teaser. That was kind of the starting point. And we went to a casting agency in Scotland that specifically casts like younger children and children. And there was two actresses who were great, but one of them was just too young. She looked the part. Do you remember her, Sophie?
I do remember Sophie. She was great. It was a really hard call, actually. We really liked her. I think she's got a great future in acting ahead of her. Sophie, what's her surname?
I'll find it for you.
Find it before the end. But Sophie, she was brilliant. But yeah, we did self tapes. So we had people send in self tapes, which both me and Fraser could watch. We loved Lily from the get go, and we really liked Sophie. And I think we may have got them to do another thing. And I think we had a Zoom with both of them.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's always the way with casting. There's only one role.
Clifton.
Sophie Clifton.
Sophie
yeah,
Clifton.
We liked you, Sophie. It was a great meeting with you, and we think she's got a great future.
For the choir, and then for the dad, it was Gary Hollywood, who is in Mrs. Brown's Boys, or he was, And Gary supported Cops and Monsters a few years before this, and we'd always kind of just kept in touch. And I was like, who will play dad? Who will be a cuddly bear of a dad? And I was like, Gary. And I just emailed him, and he just phoned me up, and we had this lovely call for an hour. And then he was like, yeah, I'll do it. So he goes, I love it. I love the script. He goes, it made me cry, so let's do it. Kimberly Nixon was really easy. I messaged her on Instagram, and she was like, yep, speak to my agent. And that was it. Juliet Cadzo, who's in at the end. It was Zoe Swan, our runner, who recommended her, because Zoe worked with her at her script writing course at Unity. Juliet came in and did readings of their scripts, and she went up with Juliet, and our agent was like, "Yep, she loves it, she'll do it." And then there was little Ethan Doherty, who plays Harrison in the film.
Came from the same child's acting agency, didn't he?
So,
I mean, when you sorry.
5 tapes for Harrison, and he was just made us laugh out loud straight away.
Oh, he was amazing. But when you put Gary, Lily, and Ethan together, like, you can't believe they're not a family. They look more like a family than when you put those children with their own family. It's crazy.
I mean, there's some the behind the scenes little clips that I was editing that Catriona had filmed. There's some with Lily and Kimberly just sitting and talking, and I would say they've known each other for years. And that's the behind the scenes stuff. That's not them turning on their acting,
Kimberly
talents.
was incredible. She was so generous with Lily. And Lily is she's not just such a fantastic actress, but she's just a wonderful human. She's got a really good head on her shoulders. She's really respectful of her own craft as well as the craft of others. She's just a very mature actress already. So her and Kimberly just really hit it off. And as I say, Kimberly really spent a lot of time with her, and I think it was a great experience for both of them to create that bond so quickly, and you can really see it in the film. I mean, her and Kimberly and Lily's scene is just mwah. It's absolutely fantastic. I mean, that we were saying about favorite moments. We're in that forest. It's absolutely blowing a gale. It's rainy. It's cold. We've all got hot water bottles under our coats. There's a dog wandering around that we're trying to get to do stuff. We've got lights that have got to be on at certain places to represent certain parts of the magical world. All of this stuff that's going on, and maybe 10 crew standing around watching. And we set up for Lily's close up, and she just nailed it straight through, one take. Absolutely the most climactic, emotional part of the whole scene. And I made everyone give her a round of applause so I was like, there are a lot of very experienced adult actors who could not have done what she did in those conditions under that pressure. It's her first ever on-screen role, and she absolutely smashed it to pieces. It was fantastic. So she really brought her A game, and obviously so did Kimberly, and so it was a great experience working with both of them.
I mean, combat in the weather, because I mean, I'm obviously basing it on the very short clips that I've seen and also the behind the scenes stuff. But the weather looked horrendous. Everybody's wearing you'd think it was the Antarctic because they're all wearing the hoodie jackets, including Kimberly, including Lily. And then the coats come off and they're all wearing thin costumes, and you just see them perform because some of the take is caught on the behind the scenes stuff. And you're like, how do you blot out the weather?
The magic of it as well, it looks like we hired a massive wind machine to create this incredible swirling vortex around this magical portal, and it's just Scotland. Scotland is the magical realm all its own. You don't need to bring those special effects for it, because that's where all the legends come from, is from the reality of this wild and raw, incredible country that's just in your face with all of its magic, and it's there on screen. You can't fund for that. You've got to let the country and it's such a massive star in the film is Scotland itself. It's like another character in the movie. It's fabulous.
And those night scenes, I don't know how cold it was at night, but it didn't look warm at all. I was cold watching it from a nice warm room.
I remember Kimberly saying to, because she had her coat on and everything, and we were going to go for a take, and Lily took her big coat off, and Kimberly's like, no, 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 leave it on. You don't take your coat off until they clap that board. Like, don't let them fool you into thinking they're ready. Not ready. Claps. And we took a few minutes to get ready, and then it clapped, and she went, "Told you."
Yeah, it was. But you got the crew standing by, so they literally take their coats off, and the crew take them, and they're gone. And then you action as quickly as you can and get through it. But that's the incredible skill of the actors. I think we see acting so much on on TVs and films, and we forget what if you were going into a gallery and watching a brain surgeon operate, you'd be like this, like, oh my God, how are they doing that? But we just forget how much skill actors have to be able to go into that playful place that most of us have lost when we were children and we would all turn the box into a rocket ship. They can do that. They can do public solitude. They can have a group of people standing watching them, and they can be fully vulnerable and fully committed to the role and to the make believe that we have created for them. And it's nothing without their skill to be able to do that. I'm in awe. I would say I'm like a little bit of a like fangirl with everybody I ever work with, because I just think what they do is incredible. So even if it's a brand new actor that I've never worked with and they've got no profile and nobody knows who they are, within a couple of scenes, I'm like a massive fangirl of this actor, because of the skill that they're bringing. It's just incredible.
I think keeping that fun side of you I would think is very, very important rather than, oh, well, I'm off to work tomorrow to do a short film. You've got to maintain that. I love movies. I want to be entertained. I want to forget about which bill I've not paid yet and just focus on,
Absolutely.
cool looking dogs that are going to have weird visual effects put on them at
And
some
what a
point.
privilege that we get to do this, like, sometimes you get to come to work and like incredibly skilled people give you options of which version of their magic you want to pick. Which is your favorite? The way I do it like this, or the way I do it like this? And you're just watching brilliant, skilled actors and, crew do what they do best. And you get to just pick your favorite and go with it, the thing that makes most sense to you. It's such a privilege to be able to do this this work. It's hard. It's incredibly hard work. I know Craig Mazin always says he feels that that film directing is the most demanding, tiring of all the jobs in the industry. And he's done TV stuff as well, which I would have thought, because of the longevity of it, might even be more tiring. But he reckons the film directing, and it's tiring and it's hard work, but it's such a privilege, such a privilege.
The tiring bit, I'm guessing, is a whole list of reasons, but also because you've got 85 people going, Lucy, I got a question, all at once, whilst you're trying to think of, right, okay, we're losing the light, the rain's coming in, blah, blah, blah. And is it also because, Faithful comes up directed by Lucy Linger, and if people watch Faithful and went, don't really like it, it's Lucy's fault. It's Lucy's fault, I didn't like it.
I don't know. I don't know I've ever had that in my mind at the time, because I think you have to be so in the moment. But I think it's more about coming back to that puzzle analogy. It's the people there that have trusted you. And again, like somebody like Kimberly has got, and Greg and Gary, Juliet, all of them have got like, a profile, they've got a body of work already, and they come and do their tiny bit and trust you, that they don't know yet, who's got less of a profile than they have, that you're going to put it all together and it's going to make sense and look beautiful when in the finished puzzle. So I think I feel more the responsibility to the cast and the crew during production, and then it's once you get into post-production, and particularly towards the end of post-production, that then the release of it to the wild and the public starts to come into your mind, and festivals and people start getting interesting and want to shoot it, and then you start to get all the imposter syndrome creeping in, and what if we've done a terrible job and we're like mad that we think it's fine. And so that's where I think you start to look at what's going to happen if you end up with bad review. And I mean, obviously I have that in theatre a lot as well, where as you get towards press night, it's literally people coming whose job it is to pick holes in what you've done, and everybody's trusting you to have put on a good show. And I get that feeling towards the end of post-production, where you're like, okay, it's all coming together, whereas in the moment you have to be thinking about that specific thing. And I think that's why it's quite, there's a meditative, although it is stressful, there's a meditative element to it, because it's you have to be in the moment. You can't be worrying, like you said, about bank loans and other things outside. You have to be there in the moment, putting out that fire right in front of you and making those choices. And I think that's where you are in the moment for it, for sure.
You mentioned reviews. I can't stand those people that do reviews going, right, I need to critique it. No, you don't. You just need to watch it as a film fan and say whether you liked it or not. Fraser and I constantly keep going round and round about where we're like, we just despise these internet film critics because I've got a blog and I have a blog, and I got a podcast and I have a podcast. But I would never go, right, let me critique Faithful. What could they have done better? Well, they could have had like a 7-figure budget. So, that, but that's a positive critique. But I just, yeah, it's the way that people review films nowadays really annoys me and Fraser as well, because we will always tangent onto people just need to get back to that. Entertain me. You don't, every film you watch does not have to change my life forever from this moment on. You just need to entertain me and make me forget about the fact I've not paid a council tax bill or that it's raining outside or my leg hurts. Just and take me off to a story and entertain me for the running time of your film. And if you do that and I don't look at my watch and go, how long's this been on? 2 minutes. Oh God. Then you've all done a wonderful job. And I don't think enough critics or reviewers or whatever do that. They're always trying to clickbait people into looking at the film. And I think it's a shame for the filmmakers who put themselves in forests and who freeze and who act on screen while they've got the flu or whatever it is. I've always been a movie fan and always will be. And I never lose touch of just being a film geek when I'm watching a film, whether it's Fraser that sends me Faithful at some point going, I'd like to do a review, or whether it's a Blu-ray that I go in and pick up from Asda and decide to sit and watch. But because movies are supposed to be entertaining, aren't they? Entertaining or educational. Educational being like Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan or something.
They'll always be entertaining. That's what I always think. You're not going to educate people or make people think as much if you're not entertaining them. That becomes a seminar, and instead of a film, it's not. You've got to be entertaining. Absolutely, first and foremost, I think, with everything, everything that you're doing, because that's what hooks people in, and then you can, get them thinking about your themes and about what you want to say about the human condition and all of that kind of thing. But if it's not entertaining, be that scary or making you cry your eyes out, making you laugh your head off, or whatever the genre is, it's got entertainment first and foremost, and then you can do whatever you want once you've got them. That's generally the case, I think. Once you have the audience, they'll go with you where you want to take them, but don't open up your film and demand they come somewhere, because they will resist you massively.
Do you read reviews of the stage shows you've put on and films you've made?
100%, absolutely, I do. And I'm always interested. Sometimes obviously I'm very fortunate that I get a lot of really great reviews. I work with some fantastic actors, so that doesn't surprise me. But it does, like, it's funny how certain, like, you get like a line from reviews that stick it. Like, I've got two that spring to mind immediately from 2003. So from a show, and one of them made me laugh because it's Ben Johnson's The Alchemist, which is a farce, and you've got like all the doors and the comings and goings. It's absolutely hilarious. And a reviewer said it occasionally descends into farce, and I was like, no, it's a farce. Like, would you review Benny Hill and say it occasionally descends into farce? Like, Faulty Towers, they are, it's an art form of itself. Farce is actually really hard to write and to pull off because it's so fast and it's all dependent on the comings and goings and that kind of misdirection and just missing each other kind of stuff. But that, as I say, that's like over 20 years ago, niggled me, stuck in my mind. On the same day, we had one came out that said a roaringly funny evening's entertainment, don't miss it. And I was like, what more could you want as your headline for your review of a film of a play that's that funny? It's still one of my favorite plays. I would love to do a feature film version of it at some point. Shakespeare's been done so many times, and some better than others, but something like a big Romeo and Juliet, with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes, something like that for Ben Johnson's The Alchemist. It's got to happen in my lifetime, and ideally with me at the helm. So
Definitely.
When do we
So 21st of January, where are we up to with Faithful? Where is the film?
The picture's locked, the visual effects are in, the grade needs a bit of a tweak, but that's fine. I've been told by our sound designer Rob that we should have the sound mix today. He said that a couple of weeks ago, I think, before he disappeared off to America. We can only assume he's back and nothing bad happened to him. And then that goes off to our Steve, our composer, Steve Dunster. And it's so funny. I'll tell that story in a second about Steve. And then we're racing towards the premiere in March 8th. Like the heat is on.
I'm home aloneing it.
And we're happening at the end of March, so we most definitely need to have that film ready. And obviously the film festivals are coming up, the deadlines are coming up. We want to apply for the BAFTA nominated film festivals, the Oscar qualified film festivals. So Lucy and I are like just going through the list of all these, going, right, this deadline this much, this deadline that much, this deadline that much. And so I feel that the heat is back on us again. I feel that there was a moment where the film was out of our hands. It was with Tom being edited, Ewan for the grade, Peter for the effects, Rob for the sound, but now I feel like it's firmly about to crash in our laps once again, and we need to deliver it. We need to deliver our baby into the world.
Yeah, when it's going to come back from Steve in particular with the music, I feel like it's going to be like, we always talk about films being like your baby, and I'm imagining it's going to be like, when the teenage kid comes down ready for like prom or whatever it is, and you're like, how is this my baby? I can't believe it. Like, that's what I sort of expect once the music track, because that again is such a massive part. The sound mix is so vital, and Rob's was on set with us for a lot of it, and he's been through all the way through, and he's just such a talent. So once he gets to do that, and then Steve is just an amazing artist with his music, I think that's where we're both going to get it back, and it's going to be almost like a new film where we're like, oh my God, is this really our baby all dressed up and ready for the world? So I'm really excited and nervous for that.
I mean, a shout out to Steve, the composer, as well. I'll tell you my little Steve story, who I've never met Steve, but Fraser sent me this hard drive just filled to the gills with behind the scenes footage and went, craft stuff, make stuff, do what you want. I'm like, ooh, a sandpit to play in. So one of the many featurettes I did, I timed it to a piece of music that I think was for the teaser trailer or something, wasn't it, Fraser? And I sent it. I was so proud of this thing because I timed it to the perfection of this teaser music, sent it to Fraser. I'm like, that is the best thing I've ever done. Admire it from close up, Fraser. And then Steve got hold of it and went, "Do you know what? I'm going to rescore that and make it better." So yeah, that's how
You can't
dedicated and
move,
amazing
you
Steve is.
cannot change a single thing because Steve will rescore it.
Yeah.
Because he, and what's amazing about what he does, it's so visceral. Like a lot of what we do is visceral as well, because you're wanting to get that emotion from the audience. But music is such a heartbeat, it's such a feeling, and it's so affected by, like if there's a dog growling, that's actually that's a note effectively within the musical score that already exists. So he's then, it's like asking him to compose something and saying, oh, but there's already this violin, we've already got this little bit of piano. The words that the actors are saying and the noises that the animals and the forest and everything are making are all part of the score that already exists, and he has to take it and feel that emotion. And then, I mean, it's again, so much of it is like magic, how people do it. You're like, I don't know how you're doing that.
I hadn't worked with Steve in over 20 years because Steve scored my first slate of short films. He did Bottle, he did 90s Day Dusk, that no longer exists because I've got a corrupt AVI file, and that makes me really sad. And he did my web series, the first series of 90s Day. And he went away and he raised his kids and sent them off to uni. And then one day at the Blue, we'd shot the trailer, the teaser, and he got in touch with me and he said, I'm back now. Do you need me to do anything? And I was like, well, funnily enough, shot this teaser, would you be up for scoring it? But the level of detail he went in with you on like calls and WhatsApp and the references you were sending him and the references he was sending back, and the two of you just like cracked heads until like he came up with this like really beautiful sweeping bit of music. And
He's doing the score for my micro feature as well. So I'm really excited to be working with him on that now as well.
So you mentioned film festivals. Obviously, people who are able to watch the films at the film festivals that you submit to and are accepted to will be able to watch Faithful. What's the release plan for it for Joe Public at some point? Is there any place that you plan that Joe Public or Josephine Public or the public people will be able to watch it?
so a short film has a lifespan in festivals of 18 months. So our plan is, sorry, I'm not well. So the plan is to submit that to the festivals over the next 18 months. And then we're taking it to Comic Con. So I can say we're taking it to London in May, at Comic Con in May. But then I think at the end of this year, I think it's going to go on STV. I think.
Mm-hmm.
People can watch it on STV. And we got that deal pretty quick. Like I think we're still shooting it when that deal came in. And it's nice that it's going to have a home and it's not just going to go on YouTube and
get lost amongst the millions of films.
It's going to go on STV. And Lucy's speaking to some people about getting it on their places. There's some other short film platforms we can take it to. We just don't know really, but STV.
It's been an amazing experience and certainly a novelty for me. That how many people have just been reaching out to us. I had a woman who's got a platform in LA dropped into my inbox in LinkedIn and was like, I've seen some stills. I'm really interested. Once you've got the film available, I'd like to see it. And my previous experience of making films is you're making it, and then once you have it, you're sort of touting it around to people and saying, I've got something, are you interested? And it feels wonderful and very different to have something where people are like, I want to see this. We've got people waiting literally all over the world, in Australia, out in we've got 3 people waiting to see it out in Los Angeles. That is fantastic, and it's a massive testament, a massive shout out to you and our DP. I mean, I was in LA at the end of last year, and showing a woman who's been working in the industry for like 30 years some stills, and she was like, wow, you must have an incredible DP. And I was like, why, yes we do, thank you. It's the look of it, even just from the stills, and then obviously the behind the scenes stuff that you've created and the trailers that Fraser's put together, give people a little flavour of it, which obviously is their job. And people are super excited by what they're seeing and want to see more of it. And that's really, really nice.
So the question is, what is next? What project are you guys going to work together again on something? If so, what is it? When does that ship sail? Even though you've not quite finished Faithful yet, I'm sure you're on to the next one.
We shoot Death Whatever in March. And Death Whatever for me was a pilot that I wrote in like 2016, 2017, and it just never went anywhere. And Lucy was like, no, I'm not getting involved. I'm too busy. No, you can't have me. No, I'm unavailable. I can't do it. I love you, but no, no, fine. I'll read the script. Okay, I need to do this. I need to make this. We're doing it. We're making this film. So I took the pilot and I turned it into a script. And it was too long. And Lucy's like a butcher. Like, she gets your scripts down to 15 pages. Like, she's ruthless. Lucy the Axe. And we've come up with a really good...
Keep in mind that, it's true.
Proof of concept for this short. We've got some really exciting cast members attached to it. We've got some money. We're going to be raising some, of course, we're going to be raising for the rest of it. We're bringing back a lot of the Faithful crew, which is quite exciting. And then Lucy and I just have this, some might see it as overconfidence. We see it as earned, where we're like, yeah, no matter what, we're going to be shooting on the 22nd and 23rd of March. Like, we're going to be on a set. We're going to be making this film. And then when that's done, we'll start pitching that to like Netflix, E4, BBC, blah, 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 and try and get that turned into a TV show. And we're writing a feature film, and that's all I'll say about that.
We are. We just started that, which has been absolutely fantastic. But I think the what we do with the setting a date and knowing it's going to happen, I'm like a big believer in manifesting now. I never used to be when I was younger. But I really think someone once said to me, if you only ever think about something you're going to do as being in the future, it will always be in the future. You have to start thinking, I am doing this. This is happening. I'm doing it. And then it becomes reality to your brain. And then it becomes, it's not like, I think a lot of people think of manifesting as being like this kind of like voodoo-y stuff that you calling out to the universe. And actually, whereas I always think of it as it's a really great way to change your brain and the way you think about things and actually make stuff happen by accepting that things are going to happen and then getting on with doing the work of it. I wasn't quite as resistant as Fraser's suggesting, but it's just been such a joy working with all of them. I was like, oh man, I really want to, but I can't. I've got a couple of things going on in America as well with feature film under option and a TV series, and it's just like you've got to be. My nan always used to say, when you plant flowers in a flower bed, make sure you allow them room to grow. If you plant them all on top of each other, then you're going to stunt the growth of some of them. So I'm trying to think about that when I'm looking at my slate and trying to keep space for stuff to grow. But then if someone comes up and they're like, I have this amazing beautiful rose, would you like to put it in your garden? You're like, oh no, I'm growing these pansies, I better not. Like, no, I was like, once I saw the script, and Fraser's sneaky like that, he's like, could you just read it and give me some notes? Then I'm like, okay, I'll read it and give you a note. Oh, the biggest note is I want to do this now, please. So yeah,
so no rest between these projects.
No, and I think I prefer it that way. This is why we at 9 in the morning to it's trying to figure out when Lucy and I are both free at the same time, because we are both so busy. Like, we're doing our own thing, we're doing our things to give her. I've got a toddler who's very, very demanding of my time, and it's just figuring all that out. And it's just, we're like, right, we can squeeze it in, let's go do it. And we have, like, there have been projects that we've been attached to that we haven't come up with, and we had to drop out of them because we just did not have the time. So you do have to be picky. Absolutely.
You've also got to preserve the energy you have for those really top of the list type projects, I think, as well.
I struggle a bit with that, and that's one of my focuses for this year. It's like, I kind of, all my projects kind of speak to me, and if I've left something for too long, I feel bad that it's just languishing there. But this year, I'm having a word with all of them, like, look, if you're not at the top of the slate this year, I'm just not going to get you till 2026, and that's just the way it's got to be. Because I think that really does come back to the flower bed. I can get distracted by other projects, and Faithful this year, it's really launching that's got to be our main priority. And then, you know, the joy about something like Death Whatever and the feature that we're working on together is that you stack them up in the chamber so that when you fire Faithful, you've got another thing ready to go when people want to know what's next, which, you know, fortunately people often do.
Well, people do, and I think it's also an annoyance. And I've asked filmmakers this question, and it annoys me when I ask it, but I'm like, I really love this film you've spent the past 3 years making. When's your next one out? And they go, oh, 2 years. You're like, oh, make it now. And we're, as film fans, can be very impatient. We're like, we want it now, and we don't sort of fully appreciate the fact that it takes a huge pile of money, a lot of time, a lot of scheduling to put these things together. But I genuinely do appreciate that. But I always feel impatient when I'm like, okay, Faithful's not at its premiere yet. What's next? Kind of, I like to acknowledge the fact that it's a weird and very selfish question from a film fan.
It's also exciting for us, like, to hear that people want to know what you're doing next. Like, it means that you're doing something right, and that's quite nice. Like, I've not made a short film since like 2013, so it's nice to be doing another short. But I didn't expect us to so quickly go, right, this is the next thing. And through conversations that we're having with Faithful, people are now saying, right, well, have you considered doing that? And we're like, no, but maybe we should. Okay, let's go do that. So like, it's running against, like, I feel like the Faithful train has just left the station already, and I feel like we're just trying to catch up with that. So.
And people always seem to think, like, I had a producer say to me, which of your projects are you most passionate about? And I'm like, you really want to know what's my favorite child? Do you? Like,
yes, which is your favorite child, Lucy?
I'm
Pick
passionate
one.
about all of these things. Then also, it depends on what's relevant. Like, if I have one child that's really good at gymnastics and one child that's really good at football and one child that's an amazing musician, like, who are you and what do you want to do? If you are an amazing music school producer, then that's going to be the project that I want to be putting forward to you. And if that child gets into that school, I'm going to be at every concert. I'm going to be fully passionately involved because I care about the life and the future of that project. But there's no point in me talking to you about the kid that's good at football because that's not. So, you know, I think people sometimes think that you can't be passionate about everything on your slate, and particularly once you start taking on other people's projects onto your slate, people wonder if it's going to be a back burner. But, like, you know, I had a comedy horror on my slate for a while, and that means that when I meet somebody, that's my only comedy horror on there. So when I meet somebody that's their bag, that's what they're doing, that's all I'm pitching, and I'm pitching it with all the passion that caused me to put it on my slate in the first place, because that's why I did it. That's why it's become part of my family. So I think people do sometimes get the wrong idea about that kind of, and obviously you do get people who have like one passion project and it's their life's goal. But honestly, that's a hard road to hoe. And if you can not do that, that would be my strong advice.
It would be like a writer that goes into an exec meeting and they're like, right, so what script have you got? I've got this one.
Yeah.
I'm not really a fan of that. What else have you got? Oh,
Yeah.
I don't have another one. You've got to go in and go, this one. I don't like that one. This one, and you just have like tentacles coming out and your scripts in every claw.
Always have 5 ideas ready.
Yeah. Or the ability to come up with them really fast. Yeah. If you've run out of your 5. So what are your plans for the rest of the day? You got quiet days ahead? I mean, I manifested getting up at 8:45 this morning and, you know, watching Zoom update itself, which was fun.
So I've got a phone call in 20 minutes to promote Faithful's after party on the radio, and then I've got admin bits to do. But my wife and I are ill, so it'll be
a meeting, Fraser. Don't forget our meeting.
Yes, we've got a meeting at 2:15
for Death Whatever with our producers, Val and Lindsay. So that's going to be our first pre-production meeting of all of us for Death Whatever, and our first one with all of our cast secured.
Well, hopefully, yes. One more to go. One more
to fully finalise, but we're pretty much there.
As a publicity person, I would say record that call because you may end up using bits of it in a documentary at some point. But you know,
I thought that about our first Zoom on our feature. I was like, we should have recorded this actually, like the very first time we actually ever speak about this. So when it's eventually finished movie. But we'll do that next time.
I watched a 2.5 hour documentary about the Blair Witch Project, which is on the Second Sight Blu-ray, and they used clips of, well, we could do this and we could do that from like the mid-90s, and it was fascinating. And I have plans to turn all the stuff that you've sent me for Faithful into like a feature length type making of thing and include new interviews in and stuff. So thinking ahead, if I end up doing it for Death Whatever, I think that would be gold. Just put it in an archive, and if you end up using it, use it. If you don't, you don't.
Today, and we'll try not to get the giggles.
Yes, giggles are fine. Giggles can be edited. You know, you can get rid of them. But I mean, this is the first time I've spoke to you voice to voice, Lucy. So but I feel like I know you from watching all the behind the scenes stuff and seeing you walk around in a forest getting rained on. And
yeah, well, equally, I feel like you've been such a massive supporter of Faithful. Like anytime we're sharing anything, I'm looking, and there you are. You've shared it all over social media. You know, you're such a big supporter of indie film, and getting, you know, that kind of being an ally that amplifies, particularly a female director's voice, and projects and work. You know, it's really important that there's more of us doing this kind of work so that we get more variety, because ultimately that's what we all. So I think people think there's like a kind of buzz word around like diversity and inclusion, especially now with everything that's going on in America. And, you know, to me, it's just so simple that, you know, diverse voices make more diverse and interesting stories. We have more interesting stories to tell. And I get like that when I've heard from a couple of people who are doing all female crew, and I'm like, that's not diversity. You're just changing one homogenous group for another homogenous group. And actually I want different gazes, and I want different life experiences in terms of, you know, all kinds of different demographics, because my audience hopefully will have really diverse will be diverse demographics as well. So it's not just like it's the right thing to do. It's like actually it makes good business sense, and it makes for more interesting, diverse stories. So thank you for supporting all of us and promoting us.
It's my way of paying back for all the entertainment over the years that filmmakers give to me. And the internet is full of just people whinging and complaining about everything. And I try and tip the scales the other way. I'm the child with the finger in the dike in Holland. Whether it's a short story or a nursery rhyme or whatever, but I remember as a kid going, please, internet, be nice, love movies because they're awesome and they entertain. Well, they should entertain film geeks. So thank you for making them. Is my flip side to that one.
It's such a privilege.
And thanks for writing them, Fraser. You do it rather well.
Yeah, sorry, I suppose.
Well, I shall let you two go because Fraser, you've got your meeting at 10:30 and you're still poorly. I've been ill since July last year, to be fair, so I'm surprised I'm still standing.
I'm glad you are.
Yeah, so am I. Well, I'm sitting at the minute, but you know what I mean.
The
point is there.
Good. That's good. Like,
yes.
I think that's better. But yeah, thanks for having us on. Thanks for letting us.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
You are welcome. I look forward to, can I say meet you both? Because I've met you a few times, Fraser. I may tell the kettle story at one point again, but in the future. But I look forward to seeing you at the premiere in March, Lucy.
Oh, literally cannot wait. I'm so excited. I've got my outfit all sorted, and I could go tomorrow, except for the fact that the film isn't finished.
Yeah, don't go tomorrow. The place will be locked up and there'll be no film there. So it's kind of a wasted trip, really, to be fair. But you both enjoy the rest of your day.
And you.
And I will chat to you both soon.
Thank you.
It is said that the walls between our world and the next are so thin that when the moon is high, the Kushi can come for you. The first howl, a warning. You have to run if the fear doesn't cause your feet to stick to the ground. The second howl, the chase begins. They say that if you could follow the Kushi, you could reach the underworld yourself. You see, the Kushi is kind, in a way. He warns you that he's coming. He gives you a chance. But are you faster than death itself? The third and final howl. If you hear it, your fate is sealed, dragged into the fairy world.